Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show is for you. Welcome to the High Conflict Co Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. Enjoy another episode now. All right, everybody. Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett back here with episode 16. Brooke, we're just cooking away. 16 episodes. Do you ever think we'd be here?
And it's just picking up and moving on, and I'm really enjoying all of this. And I had no idea we'd be this far down the road.
It's pretty fascinating to me because my other podcast on retirement is very geographically limited to the United States and to a certain age group to some degree. I get 30s and 40s call in from renovating retirement, but it's a lot of people that are in retirement or nearing it. This show is multiple countries and conflict and divorce and exes is very global.
For sure. I did a count over the weekend, and we're at 13 countries right now. It's kind of fascinating. It's like I never thought that would be in that realm, but it certainly is.
And I would bet there's a lot of people that are in their car listening, or they're jogging or they're doing something like that. A lot of the podcasts I listen to, I'm also multitasking, and they never, write down your email or actually reach out, but you're super accessible. I mean, if somebody wants to talk to you directly, they can just email or call in or however you have it set up, but they can talk to you if they want, right?
Absolutely. I'll return emails, I'll return phone calls, and all that information is at the tail end of this and every episode. So reach out.
What are the easy? We'll do it here too. It's at the tail end, but what's the easy way for them to get you?
My personal email, brooke@highconflict.net. And they can call the business phone here at 760-751-4398. If they leave a message, I'll make it a point to get back to them.
Perfect. So today we're talking about stability for the children, which every loving parent cares about. And you've got kind of a subtitle here, What's Happening with the Kids. Give us a little bit of an overview, kind of what was in your mind when you created this show, and what are we going to talk about today?
Well, when we're starting down the divorce road, we've got a lot of things on our mind, and the focus on the kids is certainly one of them. But how we look at that and the perspective, the lens that we look at it through, sometimes gets distorted. So what we want to talk about today, what I want to talk about today, is where the parents' focuses are, how they wake up to this and start to really see from the child's perspective of what's really going on for them, where their orientations go and how their coping mechanisms set up and how to help them through all of it.
Okay. And that's a pretty big deal, because when somebody's going through a divorce or they're starting to do the court battle or whatever it is, there's a lot of thinking about, what do I want? What do I not like about what the other person's doing? We do have to purposefully stop and say, and focus on what's best for the kids, or kind of, how is this going to play out, or what's going to feel like for these kids, right?
Right. And so much of this stuff is set up in advance. I mean, the way that the family setup was functioning and how people are going about their business in this is really changing. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode a little bit. But for the purpose of this, I want to talk about some of the things around where the children get caught up in the middle of the separation process, the divorce process, and they're kind of invisible. The parents are looking at the children through, oh, I need to protect them in this way and that way, and they're demonizing the other parent often, especially when we're looking at the high conflict patterning that goes along with this. And what we really want to be able to do is start to wake up to that place where the kids are really in free flow. They're in free fall, if you will. They're not. They don't have somebody that's really looking at what their needs are and how they can have somebody help them process this. Oftentimes we've got a parent that may be enmeshed with the child, and that means that the parent is getting their emotional needs met by that parent, or excuse me, by that child. They're parentifying the child. They're having the child take care of their emotional needs, or they're infantilizing the children, which meaning that they are really taking them down and having them regress so they can nurture them and keep them stuck as their uh, place for comfort in that type of a situation. And either way, that is taking the child and putting them in the middle of this, and making them choose sides. It's like one parent may be going, the other parent is crazy, or the other parent is dangerous, or the other parent is not taking care of us. They're leaving us alone. They're abandoning us, and making that child kind of drift over to take care of that parent in that way. And that means that that child has to abandon their relationship and demonize this other parent, which may not be a problem parent. They just may have been, again, in this situation of, this is what we did as a family. This is how we were with our roles. And now uh, I've got to wake up. I've got to do things different. I've got to engage more with the caretaking of the child and giving that child what they need emotionally from me, where they might not have been getting it. So again, I'm going to circle back to that waking up to the reality of maybe I've been absent here, and I need to come to being much more present for the children and getting my parenting back on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could say I always tried to be the best dad I possibly could, but I was the sole breadwinner traveling basically for a living. And now it's, been 3 years or whatever that I've been out. And there's a lot of parenting pieces that I'm having to do now that I wasn't necessarily having to do before, right?
Right.
During my parenting time, homework and showing up at doctor's appointments and things like that, where we had a little bit of an arrangement when together where like I traveled and I worked and came home and did a lot of the sort of extroverted stuff, taking the kids out and going camping and all that kind of stuff. And she did a lot of the stay at home doctor's appointments and homework and schooling and stuff. Right. And now it's very different. So I am having to, I mean, the way you said it was really good, having to like dust off my parenting skills and be more holistic, because we're each doing everything, but more halftime, as opposed to like we're both there full time doing separate duties. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Right, right. And the kids have to wake up to that, because their orientation is changing around this too. We've got two households now, and that person that's maybe getting demonized is not in the house that we all shared. And it's easy to, okay, we're going to hunker down here, and that's the enemy over there. So as the parent that is having to shape themselves, to reinvent themselves as the parent, needs to really start to show up and let the children know that, hey, no, I'm here. And we are going to be doing everything that we've always done and a whole lot more in this arena, where, I'm going to be helping with homework. I'm going to be taking you to ball games. I'm going to be doing all of um, the parenting that the other parent may have been in charge of at that time, and letting them know that I'm not just disappearing. I haven't just gone away because we're breaking up, and creating that orientation for the child or the children that there is stability in this. And to say it another way is, there maybe is more stability in it now because of how I am showing up and redoing. Um, I've got to have to come back. Sorry.
Just say more,
Reset.
yeah, say more stability now and how I'm showing up. And
Yeah. So there's absolutely this possibility. Damn it. Hey, Robin, I'm doing a podcast right now. Can I call you back? Is there a problem?
It's Robin, and it's all okay, but he fully cast himself with like 3 legs in the round pen.
Okay.
There's nobody here. He laid down for a long time. I was running to the house. Nobody's here. I came back, and he had maneuvered a little bit, and I punched one leg, but he got himself out, which was so unbelievable.
Okay.
I was calling because I thought I might need help, because here I am.
Okay.
With a sling on. Bailey, don't lay down again, you idiot.
Is he okay?
He's fine.
Okay.
He was so calm. Was so calm, Brooke. You would have been so proud of him. Makes me wonder how many times he's done it before, just in his corral, and he just maneuvers.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fine. Sorry, I wouldn't have even called. I was in the middle of calling.
That's okay.
And he got himself out.
Okay.
So,
okay. Awesome.
Yeah, he's fine. Don't worry. You're good. I just would have needed you.
Well, I would have been there. Thanks, Robin.
I know. Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I don't remember that last starting sentence. If you do, we can.
Shit.
And I have the next thing I can comment on, but I don't remember what that last sentence you were supposed to redo was.
Right. So, okay, I remember what it was. So, what may actually be happening here is that it is actually becoming more stable, because that parent that is reshaping themselves is showing up with more skills and more awareness of what is really needed in this process. They've come into a different orientation that, my children need more of me, and I have to have more skills to do it. When they reorient to that, they create a more stable place for the children that actually may not have been there in the beginning.
Yeah. The divorce and separation is quite a shakeup in the beginning, but for me, very purposefully, I thought if one happy home or possibly two happy homes has got to be better than one unhappy home, and kind of went out to build that on purpose. But building things isn't instant. It takes some type of time. But there's that hope that we're able to give people, which is, even if you only have the kids 20-30% of the time or whatever, the quality of the time that they're with you and the healthiness and what you're doing during your time can make a giant difference in their life. I want to go back to something when we were talking about enmeshment, if you don't mind. I know this is a tiny bit off topic, but one of these is, I think, a version of an enmeshment. I've actually seen in the divorces around me both of these. A complete denial of children having possible issues or needing therapy, meaning any mention of a child needing therapy or needing some help at school or having any type of condition, the other parent just completely shuts it down and won't even consider the option, of getting therapy. Our kids aren't screwed up, blah, 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 blah. They're fine, right?
Right, because that's a reflection on on them. If their children aren't perfect, they're not perfect, and that's that narcissistic reflection. Yeah.
And then I've seen the opposite side, which you can comment on. Is it called like Van Munchausen's syndrome or some strange term like that? That's the one I think might be some form of enmeshment. Like, I must keep these children sick, because it does something for me somehow or whatever, or I'm allowed to stay home, or sort of these two different sides do the kids have mental issues or need for therapy? I've seen both of those to extremes, and they seem very damaging to me.
Yeah, and that's Munchausen's by proxy. And it's there's always something wrong with the child, and they need me, and that's that other side of that coin. Right.
Like it's like the child's an infant forever.
Right.
The needs, the way a mom needs to take time off of work and just spend 2, 3, 4 months or whatever with a brand new infant, maternity leave. It's like 18 years of maternity leave because they're always in so much need.
Right. That's that infantilization of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're going to get into therapy a little bit, right? And you're talking about how fast and slow to create change and how to challenge the status quo. What are we getting at here? What are your thoughts here?
Well, there's this story that's been told, and when the breakup happens, there's this kind of a standard of one parent may be that primary caregiver, and there may be, again, this demonization that's taken place with the other parent. And we can't go in like a bull in a china shop and say, that's not me, that's not what's going on, that isn't that, and try to rip the children out of that and shake them into, no, this is the new place, you're going to be with me and you're going to like it. But to really get to them where they're at and start to change the narrative in a connected and way that is got some continuity to it, so they can come into a different orientation as to the new relationship of who you are and how you're showing up and how this really looks. And to be able to do that, we might want to have the conversation early on about conjoint therapy and about not jumping in and saying, okay, I'm going to take you 50% of the time and you're going to come to my house and you're going to like it, especially if the children have some of that enmeshment where they're taking care of the other parent, where they're afraid that the other parent isn't going to be okay. And they're trying to find their way around that type of a situation. So we're going to sit down and we're going to take it a little slower. We're going to say, hey, we could go slow here. This is the idea of that step up program where we're going to let you be in this environment longer, but we're going to add a day, we're going to add a night, we're going to add a day, and we're going to add a night. And it may take us 6 months or a year to get to that point, but we're doing it in a therapeutic way, we're doing it in a connected way, we're learning as we go, and we're creating the relationship with the children in a holistic manner where there isn't this big force. And for some people that's hard because this is my right as a mom, or this is my right as a dad to have 50%, and that's what the law says, and they get pounding on the desk about this, and they're missing that place where the children might need really legitimately some space to come into this new orientation. And if we can take it slow and give them that, the ability for them to connect with us better becomes much more likely, because we're not in a fight. We're not in a power struggle with them. We're in this natural, hey, I hear this is hard for you.
Yeah.
And I love you and I want this relationship with you, and let's take it slower and let's look at this so we can find our way. And that may be this place where I've had this conversation with you where that might not be a full 50-50 type of a situation, because that orientation works just a little bit better for the children. We give just a little bit there, and then navigating the pushback when we start to make those changes, because the kids may be acting out, the kids may be sending messages from mom in a subtle way that you are an ogre, and see, you got mad at me and that's just what the other parent said about you. And we're learning how to navigate those conversations and to be able to be more connected to the pushbacks, both from the children and maybe from the other parent. So if we're reaching out and we're trying to grab all of this at once and saying, no, this is my right, I demand that you do that, we're going to get a big kick from the donkey. And if we, give this a little bit, well, let's look at this from a different place. Let's take this a little bit slower. I hear that this is really a huge traumatic change for everybody. Let's build in some safety for this and move in a way that lets the children and maybe the other parent settle a little bit more. The problem, I think, in that conversation, Charlie, is that there's anger usually when there's a divorce going on and the separation, and that anger gets in the way of seeing things clear, especially if we've got a high conflict co-parent here, and we don't want to give them any leverage. We don't want to give them anything because we've had to deal with this for maybe decades. So again, this is that checking it and getting really super conscious of what's really going on for the
Yeah.
children and looking at it from their perspective.
It's such a I want to use the word unnatural. That makes us sound like, I don't know. I feel like that makes it sounds negative to the parents or whatever, but it's a very unnatural way of thinking. The way that a golf swing or proper ballroom dancing feels unnatural at first, and you have to make yourself do it. But this, like, thinking from the children's perspective is very different than our natural inclinations. And you're talking about something that I've never even thought of. Honestly, I've never even thought of, with all the high conflict divorces around me and doing this show with you. I've still never thought of the fact that, like, all this pushback from the kids in these high conflict relationships to be like, I don't want 50-50, or um like, there seems to be, for the alienating parent, or the parent that has a lot of the conflict issues, the kids seem to become their protectors and kind of go with whatever they say. And I'd never thought of what you mentioned, which is it could actually be stressful for them to think, oh, if we go to a 50-50, then what would happen to mom or dad when I'm not, like, that they're caring for them. What I mean? That kind of a weird reality. And then what I've noticed is it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not a fan of parental alienation. I think it's child abuse. I think it's absolutely horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
However the children get their opinions of how much time they want to spend with you or what they want life to look like, however they get them, even if those opinions are given to them, there's this weird reality that if you go fight it in court, you're fighting your kids. And that does something weird to
Yeah.
your relationship with your kids, that they say, this is what I want, even if they were told to want it. And you go, like, when you fight it, it's like, you're like, I don't care what you want. I want something different than you want.
Right.
What a strange place to be. And it sounds like, again, back to the sort of Aikido analogy, you're more talking about, well, no, like, see where the motion is flowing and go with it, and, like, sort of avoid the resistance. And with whatever you do have, like, use it effectively, right?
Right. The river runs downhill, and we can't turn it back uphill, but we can redirect the river by creating new channels and damming things up a little bit here and just changing slowly the dynamic of the flow. And this is what we're looking at. And if we can get in front of this, if we can do this in the early stages of the breakup, we can start to organically shift that perspective for the kids, and maybe even for the other parent, because we're not at loggerheads with them. We're listening to some component of it. And they may have this idea or this perspective that we've never listened to them ever. And we're not listening to them now because we suddenly want this dynamic change. And the truth of the matter is oftentimes it is a dramatic change. It is a huge shift in everybody's consciousness and everybody's routine. And that is problematic. So why do we have to go into our attorneys and say, I want this now, and I want this to be in an order that starts tomorrow, when we've just started the movement? We might not even have a stable house for ourselves already.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we do, why does that have to happen in this big funk? I think attorneys often say, we're going to create a status quo, and the judges are going to go with the status quo. And that can be true. But if we start the conversation and we can show that this is the direction that we want to start to move towards, then we've got a status quo that's in flux. It's got some flexibility in it, that we're moving toward this other arrangement, ideally. And we can take time to do it. We're not ripping the children out of their bedroom and into another place that they have got no orientation to. We're not taking them into a bare bones house that got none of their comfort or accoutrement with. And we're allowing them to dip their toe in the water and then go back, and then come into their knees and then go back, and then come into their waist and then go back. And then at some point they can start to swim in this new pond that they can feel comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me goes a long way to battle the things that happen when it is when there's this orientation with one parent toward alienation and totally extracting a parent from the children's life. Is we're giving the children a chance to really see something different than what's being said. Because if you're being called a bully and you're yanking the kids out of their world, you're being a bully, right? And you're aligning to what the story is.
Yeah.
But if we're softening into this, yeah, let's take our time here. Let's figure this out and go slow. Then I think we can do battle in the early stages more. It's when we don't do that, when the demand happens, that I've seen alienation catch its traction and become problematic.
Yep. The relationship I'm closest to that has parental alienation, the woman did something that was scary to me. I mean, I felt like, in my sort of limited wisdom, it felt very scary, which was to kind of agree with a counselor to let the kids have a bit more control over when they came for parenting time. And I'm like, my heart is screaming, no, like, you like only have 25% time now. You got to fight for it, and don't let give the alienator power to convince the kids. If they want to come, they come. If they don't, they want to come. But something strange happened. Even though I didn't agree with it, there was a counselor who was, the one doing the counseling, saying that she thinks this would be helpful for the kids. And somehow, when this woman let go and stopped fighting for it, and the kids actually used to say things to her like, "You're trying too hard." I'm like, what kid says that, right? That's a very specific thing to say, like, stop trying so hard. But when she did let go and say, like, you know what, it's okay. Like, I'm here for you. I love you. And if you, don't want to come under parenting, it still scares me to even say it. It's just a weird world. But I saw the kids in that relationship relax and somehow like get healthier. I don't really understand it, but like 2 or 3 months later, one of them even turned to the mom and is like, "What happened to 50-50? I thought you wanted 50-50. Why don't you try that anymore?" And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I'd watch these kids fight to not come for their 25% time. And then all of a sudden one of them's like, "What happened to the 50-50? Why aren't you trying anymore?" Somehow the relaxing and stop fighting was healthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, because there's a power struggle that happens, and the kids have a will. They want to have some self-determinate movement. And when somebody's saying you have to do this and you're going to do this, and there's not the conversation about an organic integration and a movement towards something that is reasonable for everybody involved, then that's what the problem is. But when we create it, it's just like parenting, Charlie. It's like, we have boundaries,
Yeah.
and we have conversations, and we hold our boundaries, but we stay in relationship to solving the problem. And the problem is how do we create a win-win rather than a win-lose?
Mm-hmm.
And we can create a win-win with our children, even though that the other parent is got no interest in a win-win.
Yeah.
They're out on their own in this conversation, and as a parent, our job is to figure out how to be in relationship with them and solve the problems that are tantamount to the children as well. I mean, it's not their job to carry our problems. It's our job to help them carry theirs and help them learn how to solve these struggles that they're in.
Yeah.
And if we're part of the struggle, then there's a problem in it.
And that's where my head was going, is that, like, what we want to make sure we're not doing in fighting for our kids is fighting with the kids from their perspective.
I think that's really well put.
That's not going to go well, right?
Right.
You mentioned you mentioned it in a totally different context of this empty house with none of their stuff, right? And I wanted to just tell this beautiful story. When I first moved out and got my own place, and it was so freeing. I mean, I'd been like hiding in my own separate bedroom in the house of conflict for a long time, and finally had just like 3-bedroom place and on my own. Just I actually used to go park in the driveway before I had the place and sit and dream about having my own place. So this exact place that I got, right? Finally, I'm in there, and I didn't have like their own beds, and they're all still back in the family home. I didn't have their stuff, right? But I had, and this is before I put furniture in when I just got it, and I'm like, kids, let's have a sleepover. You know what I mean? I got a new place. I did have something familiar to them, which was the mattresses from the RV that we had back then. I don't have it anymore, but we'd done all this camping over one summer in an RV, and we got the mattresses from the RV, threw them on the empty floors. Didn't have internet set up, didn't have cable set up. Just have this beautiful memory, Brooke, of laying on the floor on these mattresses, nothing in the house but peace and freedom, right? And looking at, I don't know if you've ever looked up, what do they call them, like awful family photos or something like that? Like you look up these terrible family photos that are taken of people where they like have like a iguana in their picture. It's just like really bad shots. We just looked up awful family photos together and just laughed our butts off, laying on the floor on these mattresses the first night in the house. And it was like an incredible mattress, but incredible mattress. It was an incredible memory, but they had something familiar to them, which was the RV mattresses and dad. And it doesn't take much more than that. Matter of fact, once we got cable and Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff, we probably have less of a great memory and connection and more normalization. But there were some really sweet things that happened that are good memories for us.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing within that, Charlie, there wasn't this place where they were yanked into your house and being there through all of this upheaval on a forced basis. There was some level of coming into, okay, this is where we're at. We're going to build on this. I remember for me, with my first divorce, I had an interim place, and in the interim place, I didn't have, and this was not for very long. This was like for a month or maybe 6 weeks. I didn't have a strong place for my daughter to be, but there was a place, there was enough room and enough things that she could come visit, and we could spend a night and do that. But when I got my next house, I bought a condo. I brought her in and we scoped the place out and we shopped to fill it together. We had this whole piece of furnishing her room with her stuff. And it wasn't the stuff from the other house, but it was her stuff. It was her new stuff.
Yeah.
And, she got to choose her paints, and she got to choose her bedspreads, and she got to choose her drapes and all of these things as we established a solid place to be. And as that got more established, she started to spend more time. And as that grew, it became an easy movement into her being there more and more and more.
That's pretty important, I think, when you create the new place for them to have a part in picking their bed and their colors and their decorations and stuff, right? Because it's not their stuff unless you make it their stuff. It's not their old stuff, right?
But it's their stuff, and they had a piece in making that creation. It wasn't, here's your house, here's your stuff, here you go, and not an unconnected way of going about it.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good. All right. So we've got child's perspective and enmeshments. What do you want to cover next?
Well, counseling for the kids. I think that this is really an important piece, and sometimes we get pushback because you talked about this a little earlier in the session here, that the parent may not want them to get better. The other parent may want them to stay stuck, or they may not want the children to see who they are or to start to process this stuff. And what I want to have early in the process, when I'm talking to my attorney, when I'm starting to go through these processes, so I know I'm going to be in front of a judge at some point, I want to start to seed this idea as early on as I can for having a counselor for the children. And that counseling is there for numbers of reasons. One, and I think it's the most important piece, is to insulate the children from everything that's going on. They need somebody that is not a part of this train wreck, that they can sit down and trust and be heard. And that insulates them from the rhetoric of the two parents, because the parents have their own stories going back and forth, and the kids are hearing them or getting some sense of them, or they've been thrown in the middle of them. And without having a counselor for them, they are without the tools to process what they're going through. They can't see where they're not the cause of this. They can't get their nervous system into a place of they're not being abandoned by one parent or the other, or their whole world is blowing up. They can start to come back into a more settled, okay, this is something that's going on. I have to learn how to navigate this. This person across from me is giving me a different perspective of how this might look and what is actually going on for the parents. So they're getting a different set of information of a situation that they've got no information in. So a good counselor is going to help them have some perspective into what's actually taking place for them and help them navigate it better.
Yeah. And counseling, I feel very differently than those parents that fight it. Doesn't mean something's wrong with your kid. It's just that we're not objective. You know, I mean, I can't see a spider on my back and you can. And so if I have a spider on my back, I need someone to say, dude, you have a spider on your back. You know, just, I can't, my eyes don't go that way. Right.
And children lack a lot of the tools. You know, they don't have the life experience. They haven't seen this stuff. This is oftentimes really the most traumatic thing that they've ever experienced in their life is this blow up of the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And to have somebody that can help them navigate that trauma is really super, super important.
And this is way different for prepubescent kids. If what I've heard is accurate, and you can put your 2 cents in here, but I went through what's called life skills. It's a 30 weeks of 3 hours a week. And if you miss 2 weeks, you're out and have to start over. It's pretty intense. I went through 1.5 times. I had to stop in the middle of the second time around, but I completed it. And they were teaching some things like until, 12 or 13, human beings don't even really have the brain chemicals to think in the ways that we call like logically, like to just go, oh, like mom and dad they got married and they got along and it wasn't working out and they think it's better if we're apart, and kind of that makes sense. They're not even able to kind of reason or work through that way, which is why so many kids, I don't know, take a simpler approach and blame themselves or whatever. But if we're talking prepubescent kids, the therapy may even be more important for somebody to help them think in the ways that their brain with the capabilities that they do have. Does that make sense?
Right. Have them make the connections for them. Have them complete the pieces that they can't complete. Yeah.
Well, that's a good way of saying it, because in every way we want to help people do things they can't do. If your leg is broken, you have crutches, right? If you can't see, somebody may need to take your hand and walk you across the street or guide you to your chair or whatever. But if kids don't have that ability to make those connections when this traumatic thing is happening, somebody has to be there making the connections for them. And therapists are probably better than the overwhelmed, hurt parent in the middle of a high conflict divorce who's also dealing with a bunch of new trauma and stuff, new stress.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I've really wanted to do with this episode, Charlie, is to have parents rethink how they go about what they're doing and get inside, what's happening for the children, and get them to relax a little bit more to letting this unfold without trying to push it so hard. Stay solid for the kids without bullying them. Having good solid boundaries, creating a new household structure that they can begin to integrate into. And as they do that, as they integrate into the new household structure, they're breaking the cycle of the conflict that they've been probably in all of their lives, or a good portion of their lives, and certainly for this moment in their lives where the divorce and the breakup are taking place.
Mm-hmm.
And as parents, we have a responsibility to do that, and getting out of the reactivity and getting out of the anger at the other parent, and just looking at this from the child's standpoint, giving them stability as we create our own.
Right.
Cool.
It gets clearer and clearer when I talk to you. I wish I knew you from the beginning. There's a very it's thematic with you, right? There's kind of a theme throughout everything. It's not about winning every battle that's right in front of us. It's about winning the war, to use an analogy, right? The war being what's best for the kids and their health and happiness and all that. But we end up with these things that are right in front of us, like fighting for 50-50, you know what I mean? Or defending ourselves against accusations, and fighting for the new girlfriend or boyfriend. And those it sounds like relaxing and letting some of those be, quote, losses, but as long as you maintain the peace and you can keep your, like, consistently loving the kids, what's more important is the long term, the battle, right?
Right. And I don't think maintaining the peace is always going to be something that takes place as it pertains to the other parent. There's going to be some level of back and forth as you're going through the stages of the divorce that are intrinsically filled with dispute. But maintaining the peace with the kids is achievable in this by not, making everything a big fight, by not getting hysterical when things go in a direction that you don't want them to go, or when the kids look at you and say, hey, I got other stuff going on that day, I don't want to come. And you going, wow, okay, that stings a little bit, but as long as this isn't a pattern, I'm here to show up for you, and I want to be able to take you to that event and pick you up from that event. It doesn't mean that, somebody else has to do that. I can be in here. I can take that role. And I know that you're not used to me having that role, but my role's changing here. And I want you to be able to see that I'm available for this for you, as well as the other parent. So let's give this a shot.
Yeah.
Not going to loggerheads over it.
I think there's a fairly famous court case about sickness, right? A ruling of some sort, like where the judge said the kids can puke at dad's house just as well as they can puke at mom's house or whatever.
Right.
And I like that. Like that's naturally exciting to me. That's like, okay, the bad guy that's trying to say, like, you can't have your parenting time because the kids are sick got stood up to, and but then in my world, there's been times when one of my kids is sick and they're at their mom's, and I hear about it, and what happens inside my heart is like, well, what does the child want? Do they feel like getting in a car and driving, 20, 30 minutes and
right,
reestablishing themselves in a different bed? And you know what I'm saying? Like, I have learned from you to be more kid centric and not be so scared of this power we're giving the other side. You know what I mean? Just, it's about the kids. Like, hey bud, like, would you be more comfortable staying at mom's while you're sick? Like, I would. All right, buddy, I love you. I'm glad I got to see you when I did. And like, I hope you get, you know what I mean? It just, it's not, if we give into there's some really serious parental alienation cases, and this is probably not appropriate for those, right? But in a general sense, when it's not being manipulated, if the kid is sick and they want to stay in the bed they're in, like, I'm just letting them stay in the bed they're in.
Right. And just to ping that alienation piece for a moment again, what we're doing in this process of waking up to the kids' needs is showing them where we may not have been that stay-at-home nurturing, I got you kind of a parent, that we begin to show the kids that we can be that nurturing, stay-at-home, caring parent, and that we can take on that role. And as they start to see that and trust that and relax into that, their willingness or their desire to not go to the other parents when they're sick, or to come to our home when they're sick at the other parent's home, becomes more of their impulse and their want.
Yeah.
And again, just always remembering in the background that some of what they're doing when they're choosing not to come is self-protective, because they don't want to take on the wrath or feel that they have abandoned the other parent, right?
Yeah.
And that's self-serving for the child, and also not wanting, to hurt that other parent, because they may intrinsically feel that that parent is more fragile and less able to cope with them not being there, which is the parentification conversation again. And we want to ease them out of that role through the therapeutic process
Yeah.
and through how we take care of all of this.
You know where I feel like I've seen a surprising response from taking on a new role is showing up to doctor's appointments.
Mm-hmm.
That just was not a part of my life as a married person. I was at work, right? It's just if stuff. I mean, like if I'm going to work and the other person's not, that all this stuff that happens during the day, you need to do this because that's your full-time job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go to many of those, and now as this new reality, sort of two separate homes and the equal sharing of everything. Now we're both showing up to doctor's appointments, and to be candid, I did not realize how meaningful that was to children to have their parents there, and like I mean, they have like a huge smile on their face
Yeah.
when I show up, and then I get to hear things that I didn't ever hear before. You know what I mean? It's just a really, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to go to those things. And it's never easy. It's never like, yes, this is perfectly convenient.
Right. It's never perfectly convenient.
But like what awesome thing in life comes with ease and without any, effort ahead of time. You don't get in shape without that. You don't have a great relationship without that. So that is something I'd encourage the listeners, if both sides are not attending, all medical related things, attend as many as humanly possible, because it's incredibly meaningful for your kids. I wanted to say something. This conversation about, well, the whole idea of parenting time, or if they want to be with the other parent, if they're sick, or they want a week off from their Wednesday, whatever it is, right? They're making a choice that's not in your best interest, or not in your it's not what you wanted. You want time with them, and they might want something else, right?
Right.
Growing up, one of my parents was really offended in my teen years that I wanted to spend my time with my friends. And I didn't really want to spend my time with my parents. And so during visitation, which for me was different because my parents lived 3,000 miles apart. So visitation wasn't like every other weekend and every Wednesday. It was like all summer long, right? Or whatever, like a month long, or, like week long. It was big chunks with one person.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, once I was of a certain age, I wanted to be with my friends. And Brooke, I felt like always a battle and kind of vilified for wanting to be with my friends, and guilty, and all kinds of mess. But I just wanted to be with my friends. And now as a father, my kids are 12 and 15, very purposefully, very, very purposefully. And by the way, I was raised by a mom that said, like, the entire parenting process is about letting go. You're basically letting go of the kids the entire time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're most needy as infants, and then it starts to change from there. And in the teenage years, they're like, they may not even want to talk to you, and that's not necessarily bad. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I think she had some really healthy things to say, and she's an amazing mother. But very, very purposefully, during my parenting time when my 15-year-old is like, hey, can we bring a friend, or can I go to a friend's, or can I bring a friend to the movie? I'm just like, yep. You can, I mean, I try to include the friends as much as I possibly can. And what's happening in my head is a analogy of sorts, or some sort of a connection, that whether they want to spend time with their friends or they're actually saying consciously, I'd like to spend time with the other parent, they're not that different, right? We're just saying, like, who are you and what are your current desires and where are you at right now? And I know alienation throws a big wrench in this whole thing, but I don't really want to fight them at all on who they are and who they want to be spending time. I don't want to be the guy that's like, no, screw you, it's time to spend time with me. Because who's going to enjoy that?
Right. Right. And as you bring their friends in, as you create the environment for them that is conducive to their own flow and meeting their desires on that level, they organically want to spend more time with you. And that is the antidote to the alienation. It's not the fight. It is the presentation of, no, this is a welcoming house, and we got boundaries here, and we got things that we got to do here. But by and large, we're having a very healthy relationship with everybody that enters into this home, and there's not conflict, and there's not power struggles, and it's not fighting. We're working this through. But again, all of that leads back to the conversation of a really good, healthy parenting style.
Yeah. You always remind me of the "don't curse the darkness, light a candle." You don't say it that way, but you remind me of that saying, which is, it's not about fighting the wrongdoer or fighting the alienator or fighting the high conflict person. Just be attractive. Like, just create a place that your kids feel like super loved and comfortable and want to be in.
Right.
Because guess what happens? You may be on the parenting schedule you're on because the kids are like, here's what I want, here's what I want, here's what I want, even if that was fed to them. And then if you create a place, an environment, a feeling that they want, and they turn around and start to say, I want that, I want that, I want that, as they get older, all of a sudden now that's all on your side, right?
Yep. They always move toward health.
Yeah. So create a healthy environment and trust. Okay, it didn't happen in your time frame. You wanted it the second you got divorced, right? And instead you got it, whatever, a year, 2 years, 3 years later. And I'm sure it's hard. You and I both know, like, horror stories, right? Of horrendous parental alienation where one parent just got robbed of everything. And I'm sure if you're a listener and it's like that, it's hard to hear us say, just do the right thing and it'll all work out. Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the other side just does incredibly. I mean, we know somebody that runs kind of an organization with monthly meetings for high conflict, relationships, and her story is horrible. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just one of the problems I've found with being in this industry is it's fairly sad. I mean, even the emails that people are sending to you from the show, when we read them, they're sad stories.
Yeah.
This is not that's not like a hee hee ha ha. Like, we're doing a lot of good in helping people, but the starting point is so much pain. It's sad.
Yeah, because they've started so far down the line, and this idea of high conflict is not really in their awareness until they're deep in it. And what we're really trying to do here through the course of all of these episodes that we're creating is to wake people up earlier to change this. But even if they're down in the hole, I think, you talk about some of the organizations and some of the support groups that are out there. Not everybody looks at solving the problem from the perspective of being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes pulling back and letting your kids come in and see the health from a distance is where the starting point is. And you can only fight so much of what you could fight. And having strategies to do that, being educated about that, talking to people, if we're moving into the conversation of alienation with people like Dr. Bone that we had on one of our earlier episodes, and just staying present. I hate to have that be the reoccurring theme every time that we have one of these episodes, but staying present for what's taking place and not being reactive is probably 90% of the battle.
Yeah.
And the other 10% is, working through the things that have to be worked through. But if you're doing it from a reactive place, if you're in the middle of the fight and your nervous system is all wrapped up into that, it's going to be a losing battle. So
Yeah.
we can probably end there.
And we covered enmeshments. You got to say what you wanted to say, right?
Yep.
So we don't want to if the other side is doing it, there's not much you're going to be able to do about it, but make sure that you're not parentifying, you're not making your children your boyfriend or girlfriend and getting your emotional, leaning on them emotionally, telling them too much, having them take care of you, those kinds of things. So we can end here. Any parting comments or, for this particular episode or for the people listening, or a practical application? What would be a practical application? Let's see. We're talking about the kids here and stability for the children. What's something someone could do to create stability right away? Like one small. I remember having a consultant come in and show me how to do my financial planning seminars better, for lack of a better way of saying that. And there were, probably 10 to 15 different things I could implement, and I could only do 3 because, frankly, he came in the night of me doing one seminar and I had another one the next night, and I just implemented 3 of them, not everything, and had an incredible difference in how much the audience remembered and how clearly everything was communicated. What do you think is one thing people could do that would be help create some stability if they're not doing it already?
So stability for children is created by routine and healthy engagement. So places where kids really get disoriented is during transitions. We've talked about transitions before, but creating those transitions in a way that when they show up, it's a natural movement into relationship. It isn't a struggle. It isn't a fight. And you've created time just to be together. Children want relationship with their parents. It's the number one piece that they want. And when there hasn't been good, solid relationship is where the problems have shown up. So just making that simple correction in your transitions and how you sit down, how you create routines that they can count on and know that when things get tough, you've done your personal work so you don't blow up, so you are fully present for them and you can work whatever problem happens to be in front of you, whether they're acting out or whether they need help at school or whether they're struggling with some other relationship in their life. And that would be the piece that I would say is the one thing that they can begin to do fully.
And I may have gotten this from you, but we do a 30-minute transition time, right?
Yep.
So kids come over, 30 minutes to do anything they want to. There's nothing. We're not talking about homework. We're not talking about what we're going to do today. We're not making them do chores, right?
Right.
30 minutes of completely just be in your room, assimilate whatever you want, right? And then we get together. Tell me about your homework. What do you guys want to do today? Let's build a plan, you know what I mean, to get all these things done. And I'm not even necessarily a do your homework first and then go do something fun. We just need to plan when these things are going to happen, right?
Right.
But that 30-minute transition time, if someone's not doing that, that could be a very practical stability builder right away, don't you think?
Right. And it's funny that you say that because I got an email from an old client. Well, it's a current client, but I've been talking transitions to them for a year. And they just kind of have gone about what they've been doing. And there's some stuff going on that's really hard for the kids. And I leaned on them really hard a couple of weeks ago. I said, listen, you may or may not believe me, but if you try this, I think you're going to find out that things are going to be really different. They're going to settle a lot quicker. So I got this email this morning saying, yep, guess what? The transition went better. In fact, this week it went better than ever. And it's because Dad took an hour playing with the kids outside when they first got home. And her comment was, maybe you really do know what you're talking about. Ha ha ha.
There you go.
Right. But it is such a powerful piece. And again, that's just a routine. That's just a settled stability where we're in relationship. And that's what the kids are needing more than anything.
Imagine you're on a road that the mile, whatever the speed limit's 45 miles an hour, and you do a right hand turn without slowing down. That's a rough transition, right? As a matter of fact, you might flip the car or whatever. But we always slow down and then do the turn carefully and then speed up again. And so we just need to create those healthy transitions for these kind of right turns of going from mom to dad and dad to mom. Well, very good, Brooke. Awesome. This has been episode 16, Stability for the Children. Remember, parenting is about the kids, even though you're enmeshed in this high conflict, maybe divorce or separation. And there's so much thought about like your income, how much alimony you're going to get or pay, how much child support you're going to get or pay, preparing for your next court date, whatever it is. There's a lot of you. And really, parenting is about these beautiful, amazing kids that you've been blessed with. So thank you, Brooke, for your wisdom. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast. Thank you, Brooke. Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle.
Great.
And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brooke has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is brooke@highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.